It takes a second here to register. All right, so welcome everybody. Thanks you guys for joining us tonight, wherever that may be from. If I don't know you or you don't know me, my name is Megan Shoemaker. I'm the Adult Services Manager here at Town and Country Library, and we are joined by a lovely cast of individuals tonight who are going to be sharing their talents with us. Just so you know, if you're joining us on Teams here, we are going to keep you guys muted and cameras off during the presentation just so we don't get any distractions or things like that. We are recording though, so you'll be able to have access to this recording for 30 days from the time that we send it to you, probably early next week. So if you miss anything or you have technical difficulty, you want to share it with a friend, you'll be able to do that. If you do have comments or questions or things though throughout, feel free to put them in the chat box. I will put a hello in there now so you can find it if you haven't already. And otherwise, yeah, feel free to communicate that way throughout the presentation if you'd like. But otherwise, I think that's probably all the housekeeping, and I would love to just dive in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my mic and camera off as well and hand it over to Katie and her team to introduce what they'll be presenting for us tonight. Thanks you guys so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you.
Nice. Yes. Thank you, everyone. It's awesome that you're here. We're happy to be here in the Zoom room, even though it's not a Zoom room. My esteemed colleague, Brian Pastor, will be giving the official introduction to the show today. I just want to say a quick disclaimer. Obviously, you knew what you were signing up for coming to Books on the Chopping Block, but there will be a little bit of language. So if you have little ones around, be prepared for that. There are a few well-placed F-bombs and some words, which maybe you're excited about that. I know I am. Without further ado, we can go ahead and get started.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brian Pastor. Welcome, and thank you for coming out to celebrate our freedom to read. We are from City Lit, a theater company in Chicago that specializes in staged adaptations of literary work. Today, we'll be reading a series of excerpts taken from the American Library Association's top 10 list of last year's most frequently challenged books. A challenge is defined as a formal written complaint filed with a library or school requesting that materials be removed because of their content or their appropriateness.
So we'll start with book number 10. Beyond Magenta, Transgender Teens Speak Out is a book of detailed interviews by author and photographer Susan Kuklin. The book has won multiple awards and has also been banned and challenged for LGBTQIA+ content and because it was considered to be sexually explicit.
Oh, Brian, I think you're muted. Sorry, it might do that to you occasionally.
All good. During Jesse's early high school years, he didn't know what the word transgender meant. He was only questioning his sexual orientation. He thought, hey, if you like women, you're a woman, and you're a woman, then you're a lesbian. He didn't know about gender diversity because he was young. In Thailand, they call people like me tomboy, which is basically a butch lesbian. I guess people had questions about me. I was questioning me too. I wasn't sure what I was, so I tried to make people think that I was straight. I tried to be a big girly girl just to fit in. No matter how pretty I looked, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like I wasn't in the right physical sense. I had a problem with the clique of girls that I was in. They were the prettiest girls in school, the conceited clique. They tried to push me. You should wear this. You should wear that. It wasn't me. I had long hair and I was trying hard to act like a girl. When I told them I wanted to cut my hair, they wanted to know why. Wait, you're not my mom, I said. Why are you asking me this? At one point they asked, are you gay? I said I didn't know, and they started saying that, well, saying things that were kind of mean. No, not kind of. They were mean. I can't believe you're that kind of person, my close friend said, glaring at me like I was from some other planet. I said, you say that you're my friend? Well, why can't you accept me for who I am? How can you say those things to me? How could I call these people my closest friends when they didn't even know who I was? That's not the definition of friend. A friend is someone you can share things with, you can be yourself around. If you had a crush on someone, you can tell your friend. I could not do that with these girls. Finally, I said goodbye to that clique. I ate lunch alone. I was hurt. I was kind of lonely. During that time, I thought, am I really a lesbian? I was scared and unsure about myself. Before I came out, I had to make sure that this was what I wanted for myself, that this was who I wanted to be. At first, I thought maybe there's something psychologically wrong with me because I was thinking this way, because I was feeling this way. Am I abnormal? I was a little insecure. I didn't have anyone to talk to. I had to work through things on my own. I asked myself, well, what's wrong with liking the same sex? Is it sinful? Why does society view it as something so bad, so taboo? Love is love. And whoever you feel you love, express it. It's okay. It's not like I'm a crook or a robber or doing something harmful to people. I'm just trying to be who I am. I'm just trying to give the love that I have to someone who happens to be the same sex as me. I didn't see anything wrong with that. I started questioning a lot of things about society, especially social rules. This is book number 9. This Book is Gay by Juno Dawson. It's a best-selling nonfiction book on sexuality and gender. There's a long-running joke that after coming out, a lesbian, gay, bisexual, or trans person should receive a membership card and an instruction manual. And this book claims to be that manual. This Book is Gay has been banned, challenged, relocated, and restricted for providing sexual education and LGBTQIA+ content.
When first faced with same-sex sex thoughts or sex thoughts about your gender, your first reaction may well be, oh shit. After all, society, films, television, newspapers, and books have told you your whole life that straight equals normal and not straight equals not normal. You have suddenly identified a sex thought that is different, and most people don't like different. Therefore, you're slapped with the not normal label.
Don't panic. Just because LGBTQ plus people are in the minority, it does not mean that they are not normal. People with blue eyes are in the minority too, but we don't think of them as abnormal, do we? We don't look at Jake Gyllenhaal and say, look at that massive blue-eyed freak. No, we only look at him and weep that we cannot have him. Anyway, who gets to decide what's normal and what isn't? What a horrid, excluding word that is.
Stereotypes are poo. Each LGBTQ plus person is completely unique and individual. There are infinite ways of being gay, and they're all brilliant. So saying things like, well, all gay guys dress well is unhelpful and dehumanizing to the gay men who don't give a flying fig about fashion.
One of the strangest stereotypes is that gay men hate lesbians and vice versa. I'm gonna save you some time. If you are chatting to gay men who are dismissive of lesbians, or for that matter, dismissive of the vagina as a concept, you are talking to misogynist dicks. And if you are talking to a gay woman who classifies all gay men as lesbian haters, you are talking to a sexist homophobe. It works both ways. Needless to say, gay people often show a startling lack of awareness about trans people. There is no reason for these conflicts beyond trashy, worn, flea-bitten drag show stand-up jokes that should have been thrown out with crimpers and Tamagotchis.
Stereotypes are useless for one very simple reason. They dehumanize people and allow terrible prejudices and discrimination to come creeping in. Bigots thrive on stereotypes. As well as being awesome, LGBTQ plus people are a persecuted minority. I'm afraid it is not all cocktail parties and gay cruises. For many people around the world, being gay or trans is illegal. Again, there is so much homophobia in the world. Why on earth would we want to add to it?
Your identity is not a definition. You are joining an amazing global club filled with awesome people, but you are also you, and you are so much more than just a lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, or trans person. You need to imagine yourself as something with lots of parts, perhaps a harp or a squid. You're basically a harp squid, and one of your tentacles or strings is being lesbian or gay, etc. But you have many more parts.
You are a complex, multifaceted person. Some of your tentacles will affect your life more than others, and frankly, some are a little weightier than others. In addition to being gay, you may be Asian, disabled, and a tap dancer. In this instance, tap dancing, although very fancy, will not define you as much as the other three. This is called intersectionality, the study of how much these overlapping identities will influence your life.
Of course, your love life is a deservedly big slice of your life pie. But if you shunt the homo bit to one side, you're still in the same dating pool with everyone else. We're all having the same heartaches, first loves, dumpings, the why haven't they returned my text moments, bad dates, and great kisses. I like to think that before long, you'll introduce yourself as a dancer, a fan, a friend, a writer, or a personal trainer before I'm Bob and I'm gay. Straight people never have to do this, and neither should we. Be proud. You have a lot of different hats. And on that note, we will go to book number 8, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, tells the story of a young African-American girl named Pecola, who grew up following the Great Depression and is consistently regarded as ugly due to her mannerisms and dark skin. The Bluest Eye has been challenged for many reasons since its publication in 1970, and in 2021, it was banned and challenged because it depicts child sexual abuse and because it was considered to be sexually explicit.
Pretty eyes, pretty blue eyes, big blue pretty eyes. Run, Jip run, Jip runs, Alice runs. Alice has blue eyes. Jerry has blue eyes. Jerry runs. Alice runs. They run with their blue eyes. 4 blue eyes, 4 pretty blue eyes. Each night without fail, she prayed for blue eyes. Fervently for a year she prayed. Although somewhat discouraged, she was not without hope. To have something as wonderful as that happen would take a long time. She walks down Garden Avenue to a small grocery store which sells penny candy. 3 pennies are in her shoe, slipping back and forth between the sock and the inner sole. With each step, she feels the painful press of the coins against her foot. There is plenty of time to consider what to buy. Now, however, she moves down an avenue gently buffeted by the familiar and therefore loved images. The dandelions at the base of the telephone pole. Why, she wonders, do people call them weeds? She thought they were pretty. There was the sidewalk crack shaped like a Y, and the other one that lifted the concrete up from the dirt floor. Frequently, she slow step had made her trip over that one, These and other inanimate things she saw and experienced, they were real to her. She knew them. They were the codes and touchstones of the world, capable of translation and possession. She climbs 4 wooden steps to the door of Jacoby's fresh vegetables, meat, and sun-dried store. A bell tingles as she opens it. Standing before the counter, she looks at the array of candies, all Mary Jane's, she decides. 3 for a penny, a peal of anticipation unsettles her stomach. She pulls off her shoe and takes out the 3 pennies. The gray head of Mr. Yokobowski looms up over the counter. She urges her eyes out of thoughts to encounter her. Blue eyes, blear dropped. Slowly she looks toward her. His eyes draw back, hesitate, and hover. At some fixed point in time, she senses that he need not waste the effort of a glance. He does not see her, because for him there is nothing to see. How can a 52-year-old white immigrant storekeeper with the taste of potatoes and beer in his mouth see a little black girl? Nothing in his life even suggested that the feat was possible, not to say desirable or necessary.
Yeah.
She looks up at him and sees the vacuum where curiosity ought to lodge. She does not know what keeps his glance suspended. Perhaps because he is grown, or a man, and she is a little girl. But she has seen interest, disgust, even anger in grown male eyes. Yet this vacuum is not new to her. It has an edge. Somewhere in the bottom lid is the distaste. She's seen it lurking in the eyes of all white people. So the distaste must be for her, her blackness. All things in her are flux and anticipation. But her blackness is static and dread. And it is the blackness that accounts for that creates the vacuum edge with distaste in white eyes. She points her fingers at the Mary Janes, a little black shaft of finger, it tip pressed on the display window. The quietly inoffensive assertion of a black child attempt to communicate with a white adult. Them.
What? These here.
She shakes her head, her fingertip fixed on the spot which, in her view, at any rate, identifies the Mary Janes. He cannot see her view. The angle of his vision, the slant of her finger, makes it incomprehensible to him. His lumpy red hand plops around in the glass casing like the agitated head of a chicken outraged by the loss of its body.
Christ, can't you talk?
His fingers brush the Mary Janes. She nods.
Well, why don't you say so? One? How many?
Piccola unfolds her fist, showing the 3 pennies. He scoots 3 Mary Janes towards her. She holds the money toward him. He hesitates, not wanting to touch her hand. Finally, he reaches over and takes the pennies from her hand. His nails graze her damp palm. Outside, Piccola feels the inexplicable shame ebb. Dandelions, a dart of affection leaps out from her to them. But they do not look at her and they do not send love back. She thinks they are ugly. They are weeds. Preoccupied with the revelation, she trips on the sidewalk crack. Anger stirs and wakes in her. Anger is better. There is a sense of being in anger, a reality and presence, an awareness of worth. It is a lovely surging. Her thoughts fall back to Mr. Yokobowski's eyes, his phlegmy voice. The anger will not hold. The shame wells up again, its muddy rivulet seeping in her eyes. What to do before the tears come? She remembers the Mary Janes. Each pale yellow wrapper has a picture on it, a picture of little Mary Jane, for whom the candy is named. Smiling white face, blonde hair in gentle disarray, blue eyes looking at her out of a world of clean comfort. The eyes are petulant, mischievous. To Piccola, they are simply pretty. She eats the candy, and its sweetness is good. To eat the candy is somehow to eat the eyes. Eat Mary Jane. Love Mary Jane. Be Mary Jane. 3 pennies had bought her 9 lovely orgasms with Mary Jane. Lovely Mary Jane, for whom a candy is named.
That brings us to book number 7, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl by Jessie Andrews, is a 2015 New York Times best-selling novel that inspired a feature film of the same name. The book, told from the perspective of high school senior Greg Gaines, has been called the funniest book you'll ever read about death. Nevertheless, it has been banned and challenged because it was considered sexually explicit and degrading to women.
For the purposes of this god-awful book, I got to talk briefly about girls. So let's see if we can get through that without punching myself in the eyeball, okay? But first things first. Girls like good-looking guys, and I am not very good-looking. In fact, I sort of look like pudding. You know, I'm extremely pale, somewhat overweight, sweaty, kind of like a rat face, you know? My mediocre vision makes me squint a lot. Finally, I have what's been diagnosed as chronic allergic rhinitis, which sounds interesting, but basically just means I got a constant booger problem. And I can't really breathe through my nose, so most of the time my mouth is just kind of hanging open, which gives the appearance of major stupidity. Second, girls like confident guys. It's hard to be confident when you look like a chubby, squinty, mentally defective rodent human who picks his nose, okay? Third, admittedly, my girl tactics need a little bit of work, okay? Failed girl tactic number 1, the non-crush. In 4th grade, I realized that girls were desirable. I had no idea what you were supposed to do with them, of course, but I just sort of wanted to have one, like as a possession or something. And all of the 4th graders, out of all of them, Cammie Marshall was definitely the hottest. So I had my buddy Earl go up to Cammie Marshall on the playground and say,
Greg doesn't have a crush on you, but he's worried that you have a crush on him.
I was standing about 5 feet away when Earl did this, and my hope was that Cammie would say,
Secretly, I totally have a crush on Greg, and I want to be his girlfriend.
Instead, she said,
Who?
Greg Gaines, he's standing right over there.
they both turned and looked at me, and I took my finger out of my nose to wave. That's about the time I realized I had had my finger in my nose.
Nope.
Things did not improve from there. Failed girl tactic number 2, the non-stop insults. Now, Cammie was obviously out of my league, but her best friend, Madison Hartner, she was also pretty hot. Now, with Madison, I used a tactic I'd seen work for other 5th graders: insults. Constant, vicious insults. Insults that didn't even make any sense. I called her Madison Avenue Hartner, not knowing what Madison Avenue was. Battison, Fattison. It took me a while, but eventually I discovered Madison Fartner, which made some of the other kids giggle, so I used it all the time. Thing was, I was relentless. I went way too far. I told her she had a tiny dinosaur brain and a second brain in her butt. And I said her family didn't have dinner. They just sat around and farted at each other because they're too stupid to know what food was. Well, at one point, I even called her house to tell her that she washed her hair with barf. Look, I was an idiot, okay? I didn't want people to think I had some kind of crush, so I decided to give everyone the impression that I truly, honestly hated Madison. For no reason. Just thinking about this really makes me want to punch myself in the eyeball. Failed girl tactic number 3, the diversion. Now, in 6th grade, it was time to throw some game at Leah Katzenberg. In order to win her over, get ready for record-setting stupidity here. I decided that I would try to make her jealous, specifically by flirting with Rachel Kushner. Now, the thing about Rachel was that she thought I was the funniest guy in the entire world. I could make her laugh by doing literally anything. Impressions of teachers going cross-eyed, dance of the pigeon man. Now, this was awesome for my self-esteem. Unfortunately, it was not awesome for my chances with Leah Katzenberg, who rapidly came to think that Rachel and I were a cute couple, and one day after Hebrew school told us exactly that. Suddenly, I had a girlfriend, and it was not the girlfriend I wanted. The next day, I informed Rachel over the phone that I just wanted to be friends.
That's fine.
Great.
Do you want to come over?
My foot's stuck in the toaster. It was an idiotic response, but needless to say, it got a huge laugh from her.
Seriously, do you want to come over?
Yeah, I got to sort out this toaster thing first, Then, knowing that there was no going forward with that conversation, I just hung up. Now, this joke went on for days and then weeks. Eventually, Rachel stopped thinking it was so funny.
Greg, seriously, if you don't want to hang out, just tell me.
I wasn't able to tell her for some reason. I would have felt too mean, I think. The stupid part was, what I was doing was way more mean. But I didn't realize this at the time. I just punched myself in the eyeball. So, where are they now? Well, Cameron Cami Marshall is now a captain of the Math League. She is definitely not the hottest girl in her class anymore, although I think that does not really bother her all that much. Madison Hartner is smoking hot, probably dates one of the Pittsburgh Steelers or something. Leah Katzenberg has a shaved head, and 4 out of 5 English teachers have given up trying to make her read books written by men. And Rachel Kushner got acute myelogenous leukemia our senior year.
We move on to book number 6, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. This book is about Junior, a budding cartoonist growing up on the Spokane Indian Reservation. Determined to receive a good education, Junior leaves the res to attend an all-white school in the neighboring farm town, where the only other Indian is the school mascot. Consistently challenged since its publication in 2007 for acknowledging issues such as poverty, alcoholism, and sexuality, this National Book Award winner has most recently been banned and challenged for profanity, sexual references, and use of a derogatory term.
A warrior isn't afraid of confrontation. So I went to high school and walked right up to Gordy, the genius. Gordy, I need to talk to you.
Yeah, I don't have time. Mr. Orcutt and I have to debug some PCs. Don't you hate PCs? They are sickly and fragile and vulnerable to viruses. PCs are like French people living during the bubonic plague.
Wow. And people thought I was a freak?
Now, I much prefer Macs, don't you? They're so poetic.
Computers are computers. One or the other. It's all the same.
So, Mr. Spirit, are you going to bore me with your tautologies all day, or are you going to actually say something?
Tautologies? What the heck were tautologies? I couldn't ask Gordy because then he'd know I was an illiterate Indian idiot.
You don't know what a tautology is, do you?
Yes, I do. Really, I do. Completely, I do.
You're lying.
I'm not lying.
Yes, you are.
How can you tell?
because your eyelids are dilated, your breathing rate has increased a little bit, and you started to sweat.
Okay, so Gordy was a human lie detector machine too. All right, I lied. What is tautology?
A tautology is a repetition of the same sense in different words. It's a redundancy.
Oh, you mean redundant, like saying the same thing over and over, but in different ways?
Yes.
Oh, so if I said something like, Gordy is a dick without ears and an ear without a dick, then that would be a tautology.
That's not exactly a tautology, but it is funny. You have a singular wit.
Listen, Gordy, I know you're a genius and all, but you're one weird dude.
Oh, I'm quite aware of my differences. I wouldn't classify them as weird.
Don't get me wrong. I think weird is great. I mean, if you look at all the great people in history, Einstein, Michelangelo, Emily Dickerson, then you're looking at a bunch of weird people.
I'm going to be late for class. You're going to be late for class. Perhaps you should, as they say, cut to the chase.
Okay. I want to be your friend.
Excuse me?
I want us to be friends.
I assure you I am not a homosexual.
Oh, oh no, I don't want to be friends that way. I just meant regular friends. I mean, you and I, we have a lot in common. Gordy studied me now. I was an Indian kid from the reservation. I was alone and sad and isolated and terrified. Just like that. Gordy and I, well, so we did become friends. Not best friends. We didn't share secrets or dreams. No, we studied together. Gordy taught me how to study. Best of all, he taught me how to read.
Listen, you have to read a book 3 times before you know it. Now, the first time you read it, it's for the story, the plot, the movement from scene to scene, gives the book its momentum, and its rhythm. It's like riding a raft down a river. You're just paying attention to the currents. Do you understand this?
No, not at all.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
Oh, okay, I do. I really didn't, but Gordy believed in me. He wouldn't give up on me.
Second time you read a book, you read it for its history. Now, for its knowledge of history, you think about the meaning of each word, where that word came from, who invented the word, who first used it, and how has the meaning of the word changed since it was first used. You have to look all that up. If you don't treat each word that seriously, then you're not treating the novel seriously.
I suddenly understood that if every moment of a book should be taken seriously, then every moment in life should be taken seriously as well.
But don't take anything too seriously either. You read the book for the story, for each of its words, and you draw your cartoons for the story, for each of their words and images. And yeah, you need to take that seriously, but you should also read and draw because really good books and cartoons give you a boner.
I was shocked.
You should get a boner. You have to get a boner. Come on.
We ran to the Reardon High School library.
Look at all these books.
There aren't that many.
There are 3,412 books here. I know that because I counted them.
Okay, now you're officially a freak.
Yeah, yes, it's a small library. It's a tiny one. But if you read one of those books a day, it would still take you almost 10 years to finish. The world, even the smallest parts of it, is filled with things that you don't know.
Okay, so it's like each of these books is a mystery. Every book is a mystery. And if I read all the books ever written, it's like I've read one giant mystery. And no matter how much you learn, you just keep on learning. There's so much more you need to learn.
Yes, 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 yes. Now, doesn't that give you a boner?
Oh, I'm rock hard.
Oh, well, I didn't mean a boner in the sexual sense. No, I don't think you should run through life with a real erect penis. No, no, no. You should approach each book. You should approach life with the real possibility you might get a metaphorical boner.
A metaphorical boner? What the heck is a metaphorical boner?
When I say boner, what I really mean is joy.
Then why didn't you just say joy? You didn't have to say boner. Whenever I think about a boner, I get confused.
Boner's funnier and more joyful.
Gordy and I laughed. He was an extremely weird dude, but he would always be the smartest person I'd ever know. And he certainly helped me through school. He not only tutored me and challenged me, but he made me realize that hard work, the act of finishing, of completing, of accomplishing a task is joyous.
Which brings us to book number 5. The Hate U Give is a young adult novel by Angie Thomas. It follows the events in the life of a Black 16-year-old girl, Star Carter, who is drawn to activism after she witnesses the police shooting of a childhood friend. Despite winning multiple awards and being the most searched for book on Goodreads during its debut year, this YA novel has been banned and challenged for profanity, violence, and because it was thought to promote an anti-police message and indoctrination of a social agenda.
Kenya begged me to come to this party for weeks. I knew I'd be uncomfortable as hell, but every time I told Kenya no, she said, I act like I'm too good for a garden party. I got tired of hearing that shit and decided to prove her wrong. People glanced over at me with that, who is this chick standing against the wall by herself like an idiot look. I slipped my hands into my pockets. As long as I play it cool and keep to myself, I should be fine. The ironic thing is, though, at Williamson, I don't have to play it cool. I am cool by default because I'm one of the only Black kids there. I have to earn coolness in Garden Heights. Funny how it works with white kids, though. It's dope to be Black until it's hard to be Black.
Star!
The sea of people parts for him like he's brown-skinned Moses. Guys give him daps and girls crane their necks to look at him. He smiles at me and his dimples ruin my G persona he has. Khalil is fine. No other way of putting it. And I used to take baths with him, not like that, but way back in the day when we would giggle because he had a wee-wee and I had what grandma would call a wee-ha. I swear it wasn't perverted though. He hugs me, smelling like soap and baby powder.
What's up, girl? Ain't seen you in a minute. You don't text nobody? Where you been?
School and the basketball team keeps me busy, but I'm always at the store. You're the one nobody sees anymore. His dimples disappear. He wipes his nose like he always does right before a lie.
I've been busy.
Obviously, the brand new Jordans, the crisp white tee, the diamonds in his ears. When you grow up in Garden Heights, you know what busy really means. Fuck, I wish he wasn't that kind of busy though. I don't know if I want to tear up or smack him. But the way Khalil looks at me with those hazel eyes makes it hard to be upset. How's your grandma and Cameron?
They all right. Grandma's sick though. Doctor say she got cancer or whatever.
Damn. Sorry, Kay.
Yeah, she's taking chemo. She only worried about getting a wig though. She'll be all right.
Is your mom helping with Cameron?
Good old Star, always looking for the best in people. You know she ain't helping.
Hey, it was just a question. She came in the store the other day. She looks better.
Yeah, for now. She claims she's trying to get clean, but it's the usual. She go clean for a few weeks, decides she wants one more hit, then goes back at it. But like I said, I'm good. Cameron's good. Grandma's good. That's all that matters.
The music changes and Drake raps from the speakers. I nod to the beat and rap along under my breath. Everybody on the dance floor yells out that started from the bottom, now we hear part. Khalil is watching me. A smile tries to form on his lips, but he shakes his head.
Can't believe you still love whiny ass Drake.
Leave my husband alone.
Your corny husband? Baby, you my everything and all I ever wanted.
I push him with my shoulder and he laughs. His drink splashing over the sides of the cup.
You know that's what he sounds like.
I flip him off. He puckers his lips and make a kissing sound. All these months apart and we've fallen back into normal like it's nothing. A commotion stirs in the middle of the dance floor. Voices argue louder than the music. Cuss words flying left and right. Pop! A shot rings out. I duck. Pop! A second shot. The crowd stampedes toward the door, which leads to more cussing and fighting, since it's impossible for everybody to get out at once. Khalil grabs my hand.
Come on.
He pulls me through the crowd, shoving people out of our way and stepping on shoes. Cars speed away outside and people running into the night in any direction where shots aren't firing off. Khalil leads me to a Chevy Impala parked under a dim streetlight. We screech off, leaving chaos in the rearview mirror.
Always some shit. Can't have a party without someone getting shot.
Khalil's Impala is nice. Not all flashy like some guy cars. I pick at a crack in the seat. Who do you think got shot?
Probably the King Lord. Some guard disciples came in when I got there. Something was bound to pop off.
I nod. Gordon Heights has been a battlefield for the past 2 months over some stupid territory wars. Khalil cranks up his stereo, blasting an old rap song Daddy has played 1,000,000 times. Why do you always listening to that old stuff?
Man, get out of here. Tupac was the truth.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
Nah, even now. Like, check this. Pac once said, Thug Life stood for the hate you give little infant fucks everyone.
What?
Listen, the hate you, the letter U, give little infants fucks everybody. THUGLIFE, Thug Life. Even what society gives us as use, it bites them in the ass when we growl out.
Damn. Yeah.
See, told you he was still relevant.
Now I'm wondering what he's doing to fuck everybody. As much as I think I know, I hope I'm wrong. I need to hear it from him. So why have you really been busy?
Where you want me to take you? Your house or to the store?
Khalil,
Your house or the store?
if you're selling that stuff,
Mind your business, Star. Don't worry about me. Doing what I gotta do.
bullshit. You know my dad will help you out.
I don't need nobody's help, okay? And that little minimum wage job your pops gave me didn't make nothing happen. Look, I'm tired of choosing between lights and food.
I thought your grandma was working.
She was. When she got sick, them clowns at the hospital claimed they couldn't work with her. 2 months later, she wasn't pulling a load on the job because when you're going through chemo, you can't pull big ass garbage cans around.
Yeah.
They fired her. Funny, huh? The hospital fired her because she was sick.
It's silent in the Impala except for Tupac asking, who do you believe in? I don't know. A whoop whoop sound startles us, and blue lights flash in the rearview mirror.
Now, book number 4, Out of Darkness, is a historical young adult novel by Ashley Hope Perez. The story chronicles a love affair between a teenage Mexican-American girl and a teenage African-American boy in 1930s New London, Texas, occurring right up to the 1937 New London school explosion. The novel deals with racism, classism, and segregation, and has recently been banned, challenged, and restricted for depictions of abuse and because it was considered to be sexually explicit.
I will unmute myself. The Explosion. Thursday, March 18th, 1937, 3:16 p.m. Wash drove his shovel into the flower bed and turned the soil. Fast, but not too fast. He had to be sure to earn out the hour. He liked working at the superintendent's place, liked being close to the school, liked how Mr. Crane always paid him fair. A quarter an hour was a decent take, and he was saving for third-class train tickets to the Mexican border, the price of life with his girl. He'd ask for more hours tomorrow, but today the weather was too fine to waste. The sky rolled out bright as a bolt of blue fabric, the warm breeze combing back the last of the chill. It was weather for being in love, and Wash was in love. He counted the minutes until Mr. Crane would be done with his meeting and could pay him, and the minutes after that until his girl would be done with school and they could get to the tree and be together. He was thinking out his first touch for her, a kiss, one hand to her long, soft hair, the other to her waist, when a thundering roar filled his ears. The ground bucked, the trees above him lashed back and forth. Wash picked himself up and stumbled forward. When he rounded the corner of the house, he saw the walls and roof of the school crumble. He ran hard across the muddy schoolyard through drifting clouds of thick black and gray and white dust that choked and blinded him. He found the side door of the school and stumbled into what was left of the main hallway. His arms went white with dust. Grit caked his tongue. The building groaned around him, but there was no other sound inside. The walls along the hall were blasted out, and what was left of the ceiling sloped at a dangerous angle. One brass light fixture dangled, bulbs shattered. He inched forward, boots crushing on broken tile. He was edging toward the blown-out wall of a classroom when he saw it. A black shoe with a worn strap and a red button. A shoe he knew.
Before September 1936. Belly down on a thick branch, Naomi settled into the sway and creak of the tree. She closed her eyes and let her ears fill with wings beating air, and the soft pad of new acorns falling onto pine needles. She tried not to think of the kids outside of school in their neat circles. She listened to small things chewing through leaves and to a scurrying in the undergrowth. She breathed in the air and the scent of sap. She pressed her palms hard against the branch, felt all the little hurts of its years, and felt how the bark had grown up, tough and strong and fierce over those hurts. When she opened her eyes, the world flooded in, light, so much light, falling down around her. Green and the shadow of green locked away in stem and bark. And none of it reminded her of the empty space in the world where her mother should have been, nor of Henry, who had taken her out of it.
Wash never got tired of the woods. There was the beauty of the place and also the pleasure of finding things. The woods had a way of grabbing bits out of pockets and scattering them for other people to come across. Also, there were the folks who let things fall or plain dumped them when they no longer had use for them. So he wasn't surprised to see a black shoe lying on its side just off the path. It looked to be a woman's shoe. He kicked through the dry pine needles and leaves, checking for its mate. Something moved in the branches above him. For a moment, a slim brown foot dangled through the leaves. A second later, he glimpsed a face. Dark eyebrows, enormous brown eyes, and a full, serious mouth. A kissable mouth. He'd never seen this girl. Since most of Wash's friends were picking today, he might as well be the first to meet this new girl, and he meant to make the most of it. Your shoe, miss? He smiled up into the tree.
It fell, she said from inside the green. Her voice was soft but clear.
I'm not sure if I can reach it up. Should I chuck it? Wash made a motion as if to throw the shoe.
Oh, better not.
All right, then. I'd be happy to help you down so you can get it. Most girls lapped up the gentleman bit. When she didn't answer, Wash said, "Do you always spend your mornings in the trees?" Still no answer. He took a few steps back to see if he could get a better look at her. "You still up there?" he called. The breeze rustled through the trees. Not much of a talker, huh?
My grandfather says that I could outquiet a stump.
My mama says I could get a stone to tell its secrets. Listen, it's hard to converse like this. Why don't you come down from there? You're new to town, right? I can show you around. It'd be my pleasure.
No, thank you.
He wasn't gonna get her down. Wash tossed the shoe between his hands. If I can't get you down, I'll leave you to your thinking. I'm Wash, by the way, Wash Fuller. What'd you say your name was?
Naomi.
He thought he could see those pretty red lips moving, but he couldn't be sure. He poked around in the underbush until he found a long, sturdy stick. He balanced the shoe on the end and raised it up to the branch. A hand reached down, and for a second, Wash saw that sweet face again. Also smooth arms and a long dark braid hanging down over one shoulder.
Thank you.
Well, nice to meet you and your shoe, Miss Naomi. He lifted his hat to the tree. The only answer was the swishing of the leaves.
Now we come to book number 3. All Boys Aren't Blue is a series of personal essays by prominent journalists and LGBTQIA+ activist George M. Johnson. In the book, Johnson explores his childhood, adolescence, and college years in New Jersey and Virginia, and weaves together the trials and triumphs faced by Black queer boys. This New York Times bestseller has been banned and challenged for LGBTQIA+ content, profanity, and because it was considered to be sexually explicit.
I'm writing this book, excuse me, in writing this book, I wanted to be as authentic and truthful about my experience as possible. I wanted my story to be told in totality. The good, the bad, and the things I was always too afraid to talk about publicly. This meant going to places and discussing some subjects that are often kept away from teens for fear of them being too heavy. But the truth of the matter is, these things happened to me when I was a child, teenager, and young adult. So as heavy as these subjects may be, it is necessary that they are not only told, but also read by teens who may have to navigate many of these same experiences in their own lives. This book will touch on sexual assault, including molestation, loss of virginity, homophobia, racism, and anti-Blackness. These discussions at times may be a bit graphic, but nonetheless, they are experiences that many reading this book will encounter or have already encountered. And I want those readers to be seen and heard in these pages. Within these pages, the word nigger or nigga appears sometimes in full and sometimes abbreviated as N asterisk asterisk asterisk. The same is true for fag or faggot and their abbreviations. I included these slurs in the text in specific ways for specific emotional and intellectual effect. Please use the same thoughtfulness when talking about this book. If you don't identify as Black, African American, or queer, do not use these slurs in full, which can be harmful to others. You can use common abbreviations like N-word or F-word. Please know this book was crafted with care and love, but most importantly, to give a voice to so many from marginalized communities whose experiences have not yet been captured between pages of a book. The story of how I entered the world was a foreshadowing. When my aunt first saw my head full of beautiful, jet black, curly hair from my mother's womb, she ran into the hospital's hallway where my family waited.
It's a girl. It's a girl.
She yelled this to my grandmother's excitement and to my father's slight disappointment. But by the time my aunt got back to the delivery room and I had been fully born, she realized her quick assumption would soon need correcting.
Oh, actually, it's a boy.
It's a girl, no, it's a boy mix up is funny on paper, but not quite so hilarious in real life, especially when the star of that story struggles with identity. Gender is one of the biggest projections placed into children at birth, despite families having no idea how the baby will truly turn out. When our gender is assigned at birth, we are also assigned responsibilities to grow and maneuver through life based on the simple checking off of these boxes. Male, female, Black, white, straight, gay. Kids who don't fit the perfect boxes are often left asking themselves what the truth is. Am I a girl? Am I a boy? Am I both? Am I neither? As a child, I struggled mightily with these questions. Now, as an adult, I have a much better grasp of sexuality, gender, and the way society pressures us to conform to what has been the norm. This book is an exploration of two of my identities, Black and queer, and how I became aware of their intersections within myself and in society. How I've learned that neither of these identities can be contained within a simple box, and that I enter the room as both of them, despite the spaces and environments I must navigate. I want the words of my life story to be immortalized. I want to immortalize this narrative of joy and pain, this narrative of triumph and tragedy, this narrative of Black queer experience that has been erased from the history books, an existence that has been here forever. I've never thought about immortality before. I always assumed that my mortality would be linked to my inability to survive as a Black queer person. I have the deaths of so many people who look like me in mind, from the HIV epidemic to domestic violence to suicide. I watch people like me who don't survive the oppression. They become today's news and yesterday's headlines. I remember being nervous about writing a book like this. I wasn't sure if this was my story to tell. In writing this, though, I realized that I wasn't just telling my story. I was telling the story of millions of queer people who never got a chance to tell theirs. Toni Morrison states in my favorite quote of all time, "If there's a book that you want to read, but it hasn't been written yet, then you must write it." This is the story of George Matthew Johnson. This is a story of all of us.
That brings us to book number 2, Lawn Boy, which is a semi-autobiographical coming-of-age novel written by Jonathan Epison and published in 2018. It tells the story of Mike Munoz, a young Mexican-American adult who has faced hardship ever since his childhood and is now going through a phase of self-discovery. This Alex Award-winning novel has been banned and challenged for LGBTQIA+ content and because it was considered to be sexually explicit.
I had good reason to be a nervous kid. And many years ago, we lost our house on the res when the landlord jacked up our rent without warning. We kept what we could carry. We left behind the rest of our world possessions and didn't really amount to much beyond some tired furniture anyway. For nearly a month, Nate, Mom, and I lived in our 1987 monkey shit brown Astro van, eating cold SpaghettiOs out of the can, reading by flashlight through the fog of our own breath, and showering weekly at the state park. I wish I could tell you it was an adventure, at least for a while, but it wasn't. The experience was terrifying from the start. We parked on the streets most nights under the sodium glare of the street lamp, if we were lucky, where the shadows played tricks on my uneasy imagination as I lie awake. Other nights, we parked at the end of a dirt road where I was equally terrorized by the crunch of footsteps over gravel and the clashing of limbs in the wind somewhere in the darkness. Invariably, we woke up damp and chilled to the bone, still wearing our clothes. Weekends, though, were the worst, because there was no school. The school was warm and dry, and a green ticket meant a free hot lunch. Thank God the library was open on Saturday and there was church on Sunday. We got some relief. Let's just say I've never been much of a camper, huh? Been there, done that. Now, eventually, we moved in with my diabetic Aunt Jeannie in South Kingston. Situation that was less than ideal since Aunt Jeannie lived in a single-wide trailer in a motor court with strict guest regulations. Not to mention, she and my mom never got along. Now, the first thing Aunt Jeannie said when we showed up at her doorstep with our damp blankets and our dirty laundry was, "This is what you get for marrying a Mexican." At the time, I thought she was talking about Nate and me. 3 of us slept in the living room, Mom on the floor, Nate and I on the fold-out couch. After nearly 2 months of this, my mom picked up a second job at the elementary school. By that time, Aunt Jeannie was so anxious to get rid of us that she let my mom half the money for a new rental back on the res. And now, in case you're wondering, you don't have to be an Indian to live on the res. Apparently, all you need is a bunch of broken shit in your yard. We managed to stay afloat for a few years at that place until the landlord jacked up the price and my mom was forced to rent a 1-bedroom apartment, or we might have been back at Aunt Jeannie's once again. That didn't last either. It was simply too hard for my mom to support us, even with 2 jobs. That's probably where stepdads 1 and 2 came into the picture, at least in theory. Stepdad 1 was Chuck, about 5'2", carried a comb in his pocket. Yeah, right where his wallet should have been. Stepdad 2 was Ronnie, a guy who liked to pump a little iron, go crabbing, till he married my mom, that is, after which he simply enjoyed being a fat fuck sitting on a chair. I'm not making excuses here. Look, I've come to believe that a large degree, we are products of our environment. So I suppose it's no small wonder that expectations for Mike Munoz have always been low. But mark my words, somehow, some way, I'm going to change all that. Now, old Mike Munoz fully intends on going out and getting his one of these days. Now, just in case I seem like some disgruntled wage slave. Now, don't get the idea that I don't actually like landscape. Maybe it doesn't pay a fortune, but I'm outside in the fresh air 8 hours a day, seeing the immediate results of my labor. There's a lot of satisfaction in that. Think about it. Now, why else would all those old fogies who retire do nothing but work in their gardens all day long? I'm not going to get all nuanced about the art of landscaping or start in with any of that navel-gazing philosophical crap like they do in the books, but it's not a metaphor for the human condition. It's just a fucking yard. Just know that I'm a really good guy who really enjoys maintaining those lawns, generally speaking. And yeah, maybe someday I'll write the great American landscaping novel, but in the meantime, Tuesdays are a bitch. All our Tuesday accounts are located across the Agate Passage on Bainbridge. Now, we call the bridge the service entrance because virtually nobody on the island, as far as I can tell, mows their own lawns or maintains their own pools or cleans their own gutters. They seem happy and healthy, if not a little bored. They all appear, well, harmless enough, on the surface at least, except that most of them don't seem to realize how good they've got it and how people less fortunate than themselves have helped account for their good fortune, have even suffered, so that they can enjoy their wealth and security. Like I said, one day I'm going to get mine. Probably just won't be on a Tuesday, though.
That brings us to our final book, book number 1, Genderqueer. Genderqueer is a 2019 graphic memoir by Maya Kobabe. It recounts Kobabe's journey from adolescence to adulthood in the author's exploration of gender identity and sexuality, ultimately identifying as being outside of the gender binary. Genderqueer, a memoir, was the most frequently challenged book of 2021, having been banned, challenged, and restricted for LGBTQIA+ content, and because it was considered to have sexual explicit images.
There's a photo of me at about age 4 posing with a kitten, unaware or uncaring that my mermaid undies were also on display. By first grade, I had switched from girl underwear to soft cotton shorts. My mom called these bike shorts and bought them for me without comment. When I started my period, I quickly realized that pads and shorts were not compatible. Looking at the women's underwear options at the store, I asked myself, which six-pack do I hate the least? Very reluctantly, I returned to the girls section. I had bought essentially the exact same ones for 15 years. I would pull out the inevitable pink and purple pairs and give them to my sister Phoebe, keeping only the dark, neutral colors for myself. Where are you, Hanes cotton bikini cut six-pack? It's not here. It's not here. Phoebe! 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 Phoebe!
What?
They don't have any of my plain underwear. Everything has lace on it. What do I do? Help me!
Do you want to go look in the boys section?
Yes. Wait, is that an option? Will anything fit me? We went to the boys section. Wow, these have dinosaurs. These have spaceships. These have comics on them. But will they fit me? Will I be comfortable?
We'll whip open a pack in the dressing room and you can try them on over your other underwear, okay? So, how do they feel?
They feel good. No, they feel great. When I got home, it seemed like a small miracle. 6 pairs of underwear in a pack and not one of them was pink. Why did I waste so many years buying underwear that I hated? I could have been wearing cute, nerdy briefs this whole time. Some years later, like many before me, I poured all of my feelings into writing fan fiction. In my story, all of the One Direction boys are lusting after each other, and it is destroying their friendship. But when the time came to give my angsty characters a break and finally let them make out, I ran into a small problem. I don't know how to write about kissing. I need to make out with someone for research. I have a very strict policy of never making out with my friends, so it will have to be a stranger. Where do I find a stranger who will make out with me? Tinder? But I don't have a smartphone. I'll ask Phoebe about it.
Dude, just upgrade your phone. I'm sure it's been more than 2 years.
I have never upgraded.
You are still using your first phone? How old is it? 5 years?
It's only 4.
I'm taking you to the Verizon store tomorrow.
Yay. Will you also set me up a Tinder profile? I need to make out with someone soon for the fan fiction.
Oh my God, yes.
So here's my very brief Tinder journey. I matched with 6 women. I sent all of them a first message. 4 of them responded. 2 of those responses developed into conversations. I asked if they wanted to meet in person, and they both said yes. So I picked a time to meet candidate Y. She had come off as shy in our messages. I tried to get a sense of her hobbies, interests, and aspirations, but she seemed hesitant to reveal them.
Candidate Y arrived 30 minutes late.
I waited because it was my first ever date. It soon became very clear that every activity in her life revolved around alcohol.
Yeah, her dream was to get a bartending license. Her hobby was drinking to blackout multiple times per week. And the reason she was late was that she had totaled her car the night before. So, she had to walk to the coffee shop.
Yeah, within 45 minutes, it seemed clear that we had nothing in common, which didn't stop her from asking if I wanted to go back to her place.
Maybe she just wanted a ride back to her apartment.
But I said no. Since that date constituted 100% of my dating experience, I was more than a little nervous for my meeting with candidate Z. I shouldn't have been.
She was amazing.
We talked for nearly 3 hours.
So she'd been married and divorced. She loved reptiles and books and had recently gone back to school to finish her degree. And her day job was managing a sex toy store.
You are so much cuter than your pictures showed.
I was thinking that too. Thank you for saying it first.
As I drove home, I remember thinking, forget research. I want to make out with her for myself. We planned a second date. And a note to my parents, though I have struggled with being your daughter, I am so, so glad that I am your child. And that brings us to the end of book number 1 and the Books on the Chopping Block presentation. Woo! Thank you everybody so much for coming. This is the question and answer discussion portion of the event. If there is anyone who has any questions, I don't know how this Google Teams business works, but oh, I love this grid though. We can all take a bow.
Yes, curtain call.
Curtain call.
Perfect. I wish there was a curtain emoji or something that we could put up, but yeah, if anyone does have questions, there is a chat box there. If not, feel free to find it. Hopefully, I'm not gonna put a little message in again, just in case people can't find it.
Yeah, and I'll just say too that if you do have any interest in like seeing the list of books, learning more about the ALA's work, you can go to ALA.org, the American Library Association, and you'll find all kinds of information and resources there.
In fact, I'll find a thing real quick and put it on.
Nice, yeah.
And just so you guys know, here at the library, we do have a display up right now called Read Anything, and all of the books from tonight's presentation, if we have them all at the library, if they're checked in, they're on that display. If they're not on that display, it means someone has already checked them out. But feel free to stop by sometime within the rest of the month of September. Goodness, we are not ready for December yet. Stop by anytime the rest of this month to find those. Oh, thank you, Katie, for putting that in there.
Found the chat box. Yes, I put just the link to the American Library Association in there. I know, Brian, you probably have a rehearsal. Do you need to be released? Brian is.
I understood that you joined at the last minute to fill in, and you did great. So thanks so much for doing that.
Happy to help. I'm really glad to do it, and it's super fun. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, I love you so much.
And I will also mention real quick, it is library card sign up month also. So if you do not currently have a library card, please come in to us and get one if you're in our district or to your local library, wherever that may be. Katie, do you want to give any final remarks or any last information about your group or anything else you want to share before we take off?
Look at their show before they left. Actually, Brian is in rehearsals right now for a fabulous show at City Lit, which like they could absolutely plug better than me, but I'm just going to citylit.org to see, which is where you can go, citylit.org. It's CITYLIT.org. And I can't type it incorrectly, apparently, but they're going to open soon, and I want to find that for you. Currently, Hay Fever, the Noel Coward comedy, is playing and is receiving very good reviews. So if you're interested in some classic, old school funny comedy, Hay Fever is definitely for you. Tickets at citylit.org. And then, yeah, what is Brian's show? Darn it, I wish they hadn't have left. Anybody else know the name of the show that Brian is rehearsing right now? Well, it's fabulous. I can tell you that right now. I'm ill prepared. I'm a bad boss.
That's okay. Again, we'll send out early next week. We'll send out an email to everyone who signed up for this, and I can send the info to you if you want, Katie, too. But just with a link to the recording for this, and I'll also make sure we put City Lit's website and the ALA's website and our website too, so that you guys can find all those resources and also see any upcoming programs and things that we have. So yeah, we'll make sure they get the info, Katie. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know. I'm drawing a blank. It's gonna be great. Like I know half the cast, they're all incredibly talented. Brian's a ridiculously great director. I know Hay Fever is playing right now. Check it out, citylit.org. And the ALA. And also read books.
We're a fan around here. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this evening. For all of you presenters, thanks again for spending part of your evening with us. We really appreciate it. And otherwise, we hope you will see you guys again for another program soon.
Yes, thank you so much for having us, and an extra clap for the cast. Thank you, and thank you, Tanja, for stepping in also at the last minute. Oh, love you. Bye, guys.
Have a great rest of your evening, everybody.